Hello, welcome to Conica's World. Probably wondering, where is she? Don't worry, she'll be back. I'm only going to stay in here for a few minutes. While we're here, let's talk about student engagement and membership. That's today's topic. But while you're waiting, you're probably wondering who's your host. Me. My name is Leah Cass. I'm Conica's daughter. Today we'll be talking about bones. Good old bones in your body. Let's start. Let's go through all the bones here on this page, starting with bones of the cranium, bones of the face, bones of the ears, hyroid, bone in the neck, civil, vertebrae, theoretic, vertebrae, lumbar, vertebrae, circle, vertebrae, calicle, vertebrae, the 24 ribs, sternum, protects your heart, clavicle, speckle, scalp, hermes in upper arm, Hulia in lower arm, radius in lower arm, carpus in wrist, medical carpus in hand, filaments in fingers, hip bones in femur, patella, tibia, fibula in lower leg, tarsus, metatarsus in foot, and flangellus in toes. Those were your fun facts of the day about bones. Now, let's go to this world.
Hi, welcome to Conica's World. Thank my daughter, dear, for stepping in for me for a moment. But as you know, we are back on the topic, student engagement after membership. This is a live broadcast. So I am changing up some things on this platform, hoping that these interviews come in as I'm predicting. So let's up on a couple of things that I in a community and have been just received a token of appreciation. So I am just coming back from a family gathering dinner at Morgan State University with the collaboration group of Family Consumer Science, the English department, and the history department, with those doctors that and engaging the students, participants, and coming together about the nutrition, the culture, doing it just exactly for the culture, and I want to give rules for them. I was not expecting for them to give me a token, although I told them that they did not have to give me one. So I thought they would probably listen and just say, when you and take it on to someone else. But I am very grateful and appreciative about any token that I am given. And I'm very excited and ecstatic to always be invited to what it is that they are doing. Collaborating and attending events that I can attend with them as I take and sacrifice the time, the minute, the moment, the hour. I don't believe it just come by happenstance. I believe it's just in our path to be able, is in my path to be able to do something and lend my time. Outside of that, the last trip that I went on with the students, they went out to the Harriet Tubman Museum and the trail. It was very interesting. I must say that it was my first time to the museum, and one of the students was giving us a lot of highlights about Harriet Tubman, and so just to be on that trail, and taking that walk, it makes you try. It made you try to reminisce the path and the journey she was going through. One interesting thing that I found out about going up to Harriet Tubman Museum, my takeaway was that they wanted to build that museum exactly where it was, exactly where Harriet Tubman traveled through, just because it was much more intimate. And it was exactly where those of her of her journey going through the Underworld Railroad, and the true stories of those was just exactly how it happened, and no, and it was not anything taken away from it. A lot of things that we learned while we were there was some things we had never heard of before, and some of the things that her triumphs was what she was going through. The one thing I did not know, the true story of Harriet Tubman, is not knowing that she was rented out, or she went from master to a different master in another master house. I did not know that. I was very appreciative to learn that part, because I just always wanted to learn or know, was she ever separated from her mother, her sisters? And she always lived in another house with other masters of enslavement, and that was very interesting to know. And it was very good to have that experience with those students. Student engagement after membership is very important. I was a student at Morgan State University, and it's always good to see what they are doing after you leave, or after you leave an establishment or organization. I challenge you to go back. I challenge you to just make a phone call and ask how can you help and what else you can do. The other thing that I was out doing was I went to an event, and it was career day for, I don't want to get the school wrong. So let me bring up my notes, because I want to make sure that I shout them out correctly without any hesitation. So it was Rossville College Career Day. Shout out to Rossville for really doing some work. And I met an alumnus there as well, alumni there as well, and that was Mrs. Lynn. And it was a pleasure to be standing beside her. And we were working, engaging these students. I think we had third, fourth, and fifth graders from the school who came over to our table. I must say that it was quite an adventure. And it was very good to see the students come and attend our table. Because most of the time they want to hear what we have to say, but until they get to an older age group, the younger ones, they just, look, what you got at your table? Can I get something? But it was just exciting to see those many students to attend the college career fair. And shout out to the staff there who are preparing them for the future, because they are so needed um, in these days and these times to understand what career day looks like for them, and as well as college, because you can always blend the two, because you can have a career in college, even if that is not their venture. And what we did was we volunteered for this event to be able for those students to see us and ask us questions about what it is we do, where did we, where did we work. I don't know about Ms. Lynn, but for me, my question, the most question I was asked by the students were, where do you work? How do you spend your time? Like, I believe it's a wonder. I wonder what you do and how you're doing it. So let's do a challenge. Let's see if you can take your children to work there and see what that look like. Let's see if you're changing the paradigm and policies and procedures. Take your children to work day. Let's see if any marches or any block parties are happening. Let's take your children to see those kind of events going on, because let them explore to really understand a job or a task when it's time for them to get there. Because most time is I would say that you hear the most shut up, be quiet, or be quiet, not enough. Um, but these days is changing. I also was looking at some robotics events and trying to see what was else was going on in the community because it is summertime, and just trying to see what's going on in the community and seeing how um, things are changing. We had I left my project in the car, but I did have a chance to go out to Parks and Recs down at Madison Square, down in Baltimore, and I think that's an old Madison Square where the dome used to be, where they played basketball at, and they had an event. Well, the organization that was there for Parks and Recs was that um, instructor was having a 3D event, and we got to create the 3D flower pot, and that's one of the things that's going on in a community outside of that. But here's the important part about Parks and Recs, and not only having the children at the Recs or at any activity that's happened this summer. We know Youth Works is there, right? So taking a dive and really seeing what's going on with Youth Works. All right. Youth Works is an organization. Well, Youth Works has some history, and Youth Works had come together to hire children, youth at the teenage level for a job or work, internship. um, they get hired to work. And I believe I talked about this the last time I was live about students being able to get a youth work position. The deadline for their application was in April on the 17th. But here's the key thing that I wanted to say about internships and shadowing. I'm not sure where our policies are going for here in Baltimore and our public works, but I would say that if you have not gone out and look at some of the changes that has been happening, to look if you're driving on a bus, traveling, walking, to see how things have been changing. I wish I could show you outside of my house, to show you what has been happening on the other side of where they had cleaned up, and they cleaned up through the woody area, um, of all the branches, the trash, and debris. During the pandemic, I began to pay attention to some of those things that was happening. Um, where where's this trash is going? Where is it coming from? And a lot of times, people are dumping in your neighborhoods. Why are they dumping in your neighborhoods? Why are they dumping in our neighborhoods? I don't know. I can say as an adult, I want to find out where to take my dump, where to take my trash, and less bulk trash, and knowing where it should be sorted and who should pick it up, or if we just supposed to drop it off is a whole lot. It's just a whole lot. We can leave our trash, our bulk trash out, but you have to schedule a bulk trash pickup. If you live next, closer to a dump, you can take your bulk trash there. If you work for a company or you have a contract and you're picking up bulk trash for someone, then you are responsible for the dump. So what if you got to foot the bill? You took the job, you was contracted, you dump it, and for it to build, no matter about how, if you, no matter if you do or don't want to wait. I seen those lines was very long. But here it is that what I what I wanted to even begin to talk about youth works and about the experience, um, about the children getting the position, about the experience. I think about the action and the purpose of having this job center for the youth to be able to work. Um, it gives them a hands-on experience, and it also gives them an insight about how our operation is ran. I pity you if you take a child onto your work site and you do not give them the experience. I want to do this interview with a manager, an old manager of mine at my first job. Um, he was not my manager when I first arrived to Burger King. He was a crew member like me, but he moved up the ladder and is now a restaurant manager. But he was climbing the ladder when I was first there as well. But I was asking him some questions about youth engagement and how important it was for teenagers or young adults to be able to have that experience working. I met a young lady. I always, not always, but I tend to try to um, give back to the drive-through window to a employee at Burger King because I remember how it was when I was working at Burger King. Sometimes we didn't have the bus fare for the next day, and we had to wait for our paycheck or we had to borrow it from someone else. Um, I was grateful because I just made it to the opening of the light rail system. So that made it a speedier way for me to get to work because the bus that was taking me to work was not going to no longer reach into that area of where I was working at that Burger King. But I had to learn how to catch the light rail, um, and in order to get there. So there was a couple things that I gave you a key point that the students have to learn. Have to learn how to purchase a ticket for the light rail train. Now they have the charm cards and a lot of things you can do online and just add in the money to the cards. Um, Thinking about being an employee for that job just not only give you the experience of getting your own paycheck, but it's a lot of things you can learn at a job. And that's what we were talking about the energy that um, young adults are have in order to work well. When I went into this Burger King to get an iced tea, I met a young lady. She was a cashier. And I came in and I said, please tell me you have some sweet tea. And she was like, yeah, we have sweet tea. And I sent my daughter in to get us 2 cups of sweet tea. And the young lady, she was just happy. And for that reason, I was able to talk to her. And I have not seen anyone happier being at a Burger King as much as I've seen them at Chick-fil-A. She was just happy, and that warmed me because I remember how it used to be hard for us to smile on front line, but she was just happy. And I said, and I let her finish and let my daughter finish. And I was like, hey, is there by any chance I could upgrade my drink? And she was like, let me ask my manager. She asked her manager, and her manager showed her what to do. Listen to the key word I said, showed her what to do, not told her what to do. She showed her what to do. So the young lady, she came back with a smile and she said, yes, yeah, I can upgrade your drink for the same price. It was the same price. So I was like, I asked my daughter, did she want to upgrade? She said, no, I'm fine with this size. And I was like, okay, yes, please upgrade my drink because I want to drink half of it now and half of it tomorrow when I go to work. But I had a conversation with her and I asked her a question and I told her, I asked her how long she's been working with Burger King. Oh, I'm always happy to tell somebody Burger King was my first paycheck, y'all. And the young lady, she said, this is my first job too. She was ecstatic. She was so happy to be on front line. So I told her, I said, I asked her a question. I said, do you all have a milk? I said, do you all still operate your milkshake machine here? She was like, yes. I said, if you want to learn to do something, learn how to break down the milkshake machine and put it back together. One thing that I was fearful of closing at Burger King was not because the paycheck to get for closers. It was the experience. And the manager that I was talking about that wasn't my manager, but climbed the ladder to become the RM, a restaurant manager while I was there. He said, if you don't take the time to learn, you'll be fearful forever. The fear was, what if I wasn't able to put this machine back together properly the next day? Because I was closing and I was opening. So that means that if we close it, we shut everything down. We clean and we sanitize the parts. Then the next day, I had to put those things back into place. When I watched that manager show me to show me how to take the parts of the milkshake machine and take them apart and then put it back together, it seemed like it took him only 2 to 5 minutes. It may have taken me 30 minutes before closing. So it was a time that I had to learn how to close. It was a time that I had to learn how to break down the equipment. The soda machines were quicker to break down. The milkshake machine was a difficulty because you got to think about things that get in between little spaces. They have to be cleansed. I think about a friend of mine whose son used to take everything apart. Used to just take everything. If it stopped working, he would take everything apart. He wanted to see what was stopping the machine from malfunctioning. This little child was taking all the things apart. And she said, see, this is what he's doing. I was like, oh my goodness, how cool is that? I was excited to see this child taking this equipment apart. The mother was mad. She was uptight because we spend our money on things. We don't want children to do that. But here's the key thing that we miss out on: the opportunity of the learning part. The child wasn't breaking it. He was breaking it down to figure out why this machine was acting the way it was. He knew every little functioning that made the thing work on the motherboards of everything. Everything had a little motherboard, some switches, and all them things that make things work. That's the kind of job that a child should be able to learn a while they're at an employer office. They also need to learn the directions of reading the directions of how. You never know when they will be able to own own or franchise something just because they have the skills. So the things I was talking about is the Department of Labor. and employment of minors. The minors have to have a work permit and the information that it is that is needed. The other thing I was wanted to bring up is about 1099 and our children when they work for our companies or our businesses. Um, I was on a platform one year, and the instructor or the coach that was talking about it was asking us, "Are we 1099 in our children?" Because that's another way to mention those things when children are working for your organization. I think about the children that are doing shadowing and internship. So I'm on the Department of Labor, and we're talking about, I'm at the line where they talk about minors who are 14 and 15 years of age. May not be employed or permitted to work. Here it is. My daughter made sure I remember that. On school hours, work more than 3 hours any day or more than 18 hours in a week when school is in session. Find it on the first page of the Department of Employment and Labor. You find it on the first pages of wages. And if you look at it, we're just talking about the youth, employment of minors, work permit, and employment standards. And I'm just talking about this because of youth works. And if you go down a little bit more, you say, it says work more than 8 hours a day or any day or any more than 40 hours in a week when school is not in session. These are non-school hours, and what this line is talking about, minus 14 and 15 of any age may not be employed or permitted to work before 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. Minors may work until 9 p.m. from June 1st to Labor Day. Work more than 5 consecutive hours without a non-working period of at least 30 minutes. This note is a star and asterisk by it. It says this is based upon a more restrictive federal law. Minors 16 and 17 years of age may not spend more than 12 hours in a combination of school hours, work hours each day. Must be at least 8 consecutive hours of non-work, non-school time in each 24 hour. May not be permitted to work more than 5 consecutive hours without a non-working period, at least 30 minutes. A student learner, a course of study. And I would say that this is based upon work study. So the student learner must be enrolled in a course of study and learning in a cooperative vocational training program under a recognized state or local educational authority or in a course of study in a substantially similar program conducted by a private school. Then it says it has a written agreement. This written agreement states that the work of the student learner and occupations declared particularly hazardous shall be incidental to the training. And then it lists a certain amount of asterisks that include supervision, qualified, experienced person, safety, instructional, a schedule, organized, and progression of work, such as in the written agreement, and it goes into a copy of each contract. And it also talk about it must be signed by both the employer and the school coordinator. So I just wanted to bring some of those things up, and when we talk about the labor and why these structures are in place. But remember, I'm talking about hands-on for children who are working on youth works or maybe internship or shadowing. Just getting those hands-on experience for them so they can be able to know the detailed information My topic today, and it always has been, since I started being on this platform, is student engagement after membership. Now, I spoke out to you about some of the things I do in the community, and I told you that I have been attending some of the events at Moga State University with some of the students, and I believe that's important after after you leave an organization and become an alumni. You go out, you do some things, you figure out what it is you want to do, or some of the things that you feel like you aren't accomplishing, or you been able to incorporate those things with the work life that you already have, or the professional life that you already have. Shout out to those people who always are able to climb that ladder and continue on to do those good things. I want to get straight right into public policies and procedures, and think about how our youth are engaged into public policies, or having a chance to be able to understand the social movement, as it is important for our young people these days. Um, how these policies are working for us or may not be working for us, we can see it and then we can't see it. I think about the youth when they gather in a crowd or cluster in our downtown Baltimore. I was a youth, as I stated, and we used to only go to the harbor for um, events, while holidays. Most time it was where go do something, go to a movie, hang down the harbor. I don't remember um, purchasing a lot of anything down the harbor, because I'm being at the age that we are, I'm just thinking about it costs a whole lot. But we used to go to Johnny's Rocket. I remember we used to go to Johnny's Rock because we always had the plan to see how we was going to foot the bill and what we was going to do. A friend of mine's will always be the itinerary person. She will go down there. She will see what's happening new. We should take the children down here, Planet Rockers down there. There's a lot of things for the kids to do, and we used to do that. It wouldn't be a every weekend thing, although she felt like we should work a little harder to take the children there every weekend, because it always gave the children something to do. Um, Bills. Let's talk about bills. And if we just only have our one working paycheck job, and we're having something to do for that weekend for our children, how much money are we setting aside for the children, for them to be able to do something along with us as a family? So we used to do those things. We used to go down the harbor. We used to patronize some of those businesses that was there. I can tell you this, and it's really honest. When we go down there as a group of Black people, and if we're sharing these spaces with other culture, and we're say our white culture or people, how welcoming it is to be able to engage into any event or activity if that group of people is there. Down the harbor, it brings a whole lot of different kinds of cultures down there. Um, when we used to go down there as a group of young Black parents with our young children, it looked different. I can tell you this, and I'll be honest, and if anyone owned those establishments will tell you the same, that their group of who they were attend for that business that was attended to target did not spend a lot of money in those organizations. We spent our money in those organizations because we wanted our children to have something to do. So if it would change and they will bring other games in there, then we will patronize it a little bit more. So this is what I believe. I believe that if an establishment neighbor had a problem with our group of children or our group of people attending their event, it was not welcoming for their group of people who patronize their business, because their business probably had an influx of people who patronized their business, while that business was targeting a certain group of people. So sometimes you'll believe that establishment is there because they will want to influx of whatever is going on there and that event during that time, but they may not get who they're meant to target or meant to patronize, who they're feeling was meant to patronize that business does not get it, but it's appealing to us because we want somewhere to go. And it's the same thing as going just down the harbor for fudgery, just to hear people sing and get some fudge. If we would have to stand there and sing and hear them singing, hear that group of people that was working, who was teenagers, who was going to school, and who was working in that establishment just to get a piece of free fudge. But like I said, we was a group of young adults and we had a group of children with us, and we were patronizing the company that we was there. And I was just like I said, we would just patronize and we would just mostly go to Johnny Rocket. The entertainment part I was mentioning about Planet Rock when they was there, or Hard Rock, not Hard Rock Cafe, I believe it was Planet Rock that was there, that we mostly took our children to, and just roaming and walking around. I can't say how many times we visit or patronize the aquarium, because I know I only patronized that when I was with my children alone, or a Friday night because it was $5 after 5. But it is a culture shock to me still that it's a problem for a group of children to hang down the harbor. I understand that if it's a fight breaking out, I can't tell you that I seen a fight breaking out while I was down at the harbor. I can only say that I always heard that a fight broke out down the harbor. But what it is to stop the traffic, children traffic from going through the harbor, it's not putting up barriers. What are you putting up barriers for? That is not that's what do you think that's solving? So you put up barriers, then you need police officers to protect the buildings down there. Um, if I would say that the damage that was down the harbor, and if the cameras could show, I will bet you that it was a homeless person, being upset and uptight about not getting something free, breaking something or spilling something or wrecking something, than those youth. Um, I can say that when I ride past, or if I was down the harbor, I really didn't see a whole lot of the damage done by no youth. I I cannot agree to some of the things that people say. I could say that being down the harbor, being down Rest Park, the skate park, I would see a lot of families using that area and just wanting to be out to have something to do for their children. I I hope you can challenge this to take a midnight stroll, not a midnight stroll, a late afternoon stroll, to see, is it too crowded for you? Is it too many Black people? Is you frightened by the stigma to say that something is going to break out, that something is going to happen, somebody's going to begin to fight, somebody's going to be the front? The most thing you will see is that different culture of people has integrated into that community and is using that space for an outing. It's using that space for an outing. The crowds have changed since we have come down there, but where are they coming from? I don't stop and ask no one where they come. If I'm engaged into a conversation, it's because we all are in the same place at the same time. The skaters are skating. If arguments are really going off, it's really the skaters who are having more arguments than the regular people who are using that facility for their children. I can hear comments like, "Dang, why is all these people down here?" And they say it's a skate park. And I heard a person say, "What? A skate park where?" He was standing right there inside this playground establishment and did not even know it was a skate park on the other side. Like literally maybe 20 feet from where he was standing. He was amazed to see the skate park there. Amazed to see the skate park there. So I'm just saying to say that for our youth, there are things that needs to change. And I don't know what it needs to take. I hear so many things out here, and um to say give a little bit of this or give a little bit of that. I don't know what that little bit is. I'm not certain to where the supervision is, but I can tell you this, that the same thing that I'm telling you, that I was a young parent and me and a group of our friends would take our young children down at the end of the harbor just to patronize and something. I I It's only because we want to do something with our children. I still visit down in the harbor. And I'm not saying there's nothing else to do. When someone says they building something and making it better for our youth, I will visit it. I like to see what is changing. I like to see what our youth can be into. I visit every I believe I revisit from the county recreation centers to the city recreation centers to the libraries. There has been something for youth to do. I would say that outside of those establishments, because I would say that the policies and the procedures that are there, mostly for who we always got to integrate as Black people to get into those spaces. But why is it like that? Remember, I talk about the not the I'm uh, I want to make sure I get suffrage of the women's rights. I remember I talked about the suffrage and the women's rights, and thinking about how those things went. What is our policies? What is our procedures? What is our social movement? And what are the amendments and the policies and the legislating that are changing for us to be better for the children that's out here now, that's craving and asking for something? What is it? Is it just to have an establishment or business? Is it just to be the leader? Is it just to not be supervised? Is it just to have onus over themselves? Whatever it is next. Whatever it is a demand. Whatever it is an outcry and an outpour. It's not always have to be led to violence. And you can prove that however you want to prove it. If the media shows you what it shows you, let the facts roll in place. But I can tell you from firsthand eyewitness of what I see. But if you have someone else that is on a media stream and going straight down to investigating that, don't let that one part be to say that this is the issue or this is a problem. If you have not been down in the harbor, if you not have not been down there to witness, if you have not been down there with your children, if you have allowed them to be the young person that they are, to find their way, to be a part, to make it back home, and to be home safe. Every youth, no matter if what color they are, they always want to come together to be a part in a group. They always want to come together to have a say. They always want to come together to be with peers. whatever job it is that they want, whatever it is they're progressing to, whatever it is they want to do, they will give themselves the motivation to be able to do it. Student engagement after membership is very important. No matter what organization that you are playing in, no matter what it is that you are doing, it's always something to change to make it different for the group of people that you believe is already doing the work. I had a wonderful experience at I Love Morgan Week. I'm so happy to be able to engage and endure in anything that is asked of me, anything that I sign myself up for, anything that I push myself harder to be able to do to change that part of me. It pushes away a little part of me that I'm unsure about to be able to do the work. I've been talking about the show of the Sanford and Son stage theater, but however, the Dream Girls Theater, the Dream Girls stage play of Morgan State University and the Murphy Fine Arts Center. Shout out to those students who put on a wonderful show. Shout out to the casting director, the producer, for everyone who made that show come to life on that stage at Morgan State University. Shout out to you for involving and engaging the students. That is very important. We had a fashion show at Morgan State University on April the 23rd. Let me tell you about RL Agency that put on tremendous collaboration with Morgan State University, the student fashion organizations. If I had my phone right now, I could shout each and every one of those organizations out. Oh, so shame on me. But the hard work that the students and the engagement of students and um, models that came together, team dancers, designers, to be able to work as hard as they work. Shout out to Calypso and his team. The work that was put in, it always seemed like something is done easy, but you don't know how hard someone is working until you know how hard they're working. So student engagement after membership is very important. For those who aren't getting their flowers, help them get to where they need to be. When we advertise and marketing and pushing out these policies and the procedures for whichever government and for whichever organizations you work for, understand that there are always people on the other side that are doing the work, that sacrifice, have love and passion for what it is they're doing. Never forget the moment that they are students. Never forget that what I'm saying is they are learners. Everyone is learning from one another. Don't ever forget that. The most hardest part out here now is our legislative out here in Baltimore, out here in Maryland. For all the things that that is happening, that you all are out here doing the work, push harder. We have to sacrifice something, because if we don't, then it looks different for our youth that are engaged. What is happening to the engagement after you sign yourself up and to become considerate? It's not always about destructing and destroying the policies. No, I'm sorry. It's not always up about the destructing and destroying where you live. Understanding a part about you're angry, understand a part about you're upset, understand about that you can be enraged. But when you act out on something, it means you give the hoot about it. When you make something change, when you get up in their face, when you show them without telling them you are for change, that everything that it is that is out here, that is not always easy for it to be reached. But it's always ways to try to get there in order to learn how to get it. We have to sit down and untangle some of these things, but we also have to know who can be a part of the change. And are we for real, or are we stricken, or do we just want to continue to put our youth in handcuffs? Or do we want to continue to lock them up and put them behind the bars, the building, the institution, to say that that is what they need to learn? And then what? These children out here, and some of them are really smart and intelligent, and others just need to hold in hand to be able to say that I can't, because I can't always use the words. If you remember how you were as a youth and as a young person, then you understand your triumphs, then you understand your difficulties. When you just tell somebody they have to make the sacrifice and do it themselves and understand what you had to go through, because you think it's just as easy it was for you, than it is for our Black culture. It is not. You have to understand that there's a mixed culture of people. You have to understand that there's a mixed culture of integrating of our people as it seems and as they look. If you don't know everyone's history, then you'll be sure of learning who the person is that's sitting right next beside you. When I left the campus of Morgan State University, I never knew where I was going. I just knew I wanted to make a change. As a young person, I felt the same way. What am I going to do today? Can I just earn that quarter? I just wanted someone to believe that I just can do it to earn that quarter. I learned the work and I showed up. And when I showed up, I began to be trusted. And when I was trusted, I was beginning to get the more responsibilities and the more of the duty that it was that was given out. I say to pour into our youth that students want something to do after membership. Engagement is hard. It's not easy. How would you continue to keep student engaged? My name is Conica, and this is Conica's World. I hope that you can take something from this platform of the words that I spoke to continue to allow the students to be engaged after membership. It's always a sacrifice, and it's always something that someone else can do. Just be able to give them a chance and allow them to be able to work in those small places. Use them not in the way to say negatively. Allow them to be able to be the learner and use their intelligence that they have, because you may spark a bit of genius in them. Thank you for coming and attending on this platform of Kanika's World. Have a good night.